Hello everyone, my name is Raz, and if you're like me, a mechanical engineer just diving into software to build your products, you've probably done this before. So you're saving your code in Dropbox or Google Drive with the names new or version 3 copy and so on, and hoping it all makes sense later. And you try something new in your code and it actually works, but now you want to combine it with other stuff you've been working on, and the next thing you know, the whole thing breaks. Or even worse, you made some code earlier that actually was really great, but now that's all lost forever. I used to do this a lot, and the crazy thing is I knew about GitHub and Git, but I just didn't use it for some reason. I think it's just the comfort zone of Dropbox or Google Drive as a mechanical engineer. That's where you used to work. So I'm here to help you avoid these mistakes. Let me show you how Git works and how it can save you a ton of frustration in the future. So let's just quickly cover what is Git. So it's basically a system to do version control of your files, and it tracks the changes you've made to your files over time. It can manage your files in a very controlled way. So that means you can view your files, you can revert any changes you've made, and you can branch from a code base from any point in the project's history. It also allows for easy collaboration. Any changes you make can be implemented in another person's code in a very controlled way, and it's best suited for text-based files. So what can you use it for? So it's basically best suited for text-based files. So that means any code like Python, C++, or HTML, or any configuration files such as YAML, JSON, XML, and so on, and any script or data files such as text or CSV. It's not so good for binary files, and that's because it's not plain text. So it's not able to merge the files in the same way, and it's not able to show the differences so easily. It's also not suitable for very large binary files or large files in general, such as videos. So for instance, when we make a product with SolidWorks, you wouldn't use Git for SolidWorks files, but you could use it for your code, and it also works for KiCad. So let's cover some of the core concepts of Git. You have something called a repository or repo, and that's basically like a folder that Git is tracking. So any changes that you make within that repository will be tracked. For instance, if you have a code, you make some changes and you do a commit, those changes will be visible. The next thing is commit. It does a snapshot of your files in a moment in time, and it usually is accompanied with a commit message. So a commit is basically when you say now you want to do a save of this state of your code, and you can always come back to a committed state. So let's say you're working on your code and you have something you want to try out, but you're not sure if it's going to break your code. You can create a branch and you can basically work on that in parallel. And if it doesn't work, you can always delete that branch if you want. And merging combines different branches. So this is used for adding new features in a very controlled way. And you might see repositories on GitHub have different branches for instance, different operating systems or different versions of other code that it combines with. And it's a very useful way of ensuring compatibility with your different systems. So let me walk you through how to install Git and start using it. And I'll assume that you're on a Windows computer. If you're not, you can find your other installation files on this website. So I'm working on a Windows computer now, so I'll install this one. And you just go to git-scm.com/download/win, or just search in Google and you'll find this page. So I'll just download this one. So just a quick note, as you're installing Git, you'll be asked about this credential manager, and I would recommend to install it because it'll help you later when you need to log in. So now that you have Git set up on your computer, let's try to create a repository on GitHub and see how we can upload a file to it. Test repo, and I'll just make it public, and I won't add a README file for now. Create repository. So you'll see as it pops up, it's now an empty repository, and it gives you some clues on how to work with it. I have a few more here. And it's good to note these down when you first start working with Git, just so that you can remember how to do things. And now let's try to create a text file we want to upload. Testing GitHub. And let's try to add some text in it. Okay, so now we have a text file and we want to upload it to GitHub. And we have repository set up. So now what you do is just hold down Shift on your keyboard, left Shift, and right click, and it comes up with this menu. If you don't hold down Shift, it won't pop up. So Shift and right click, and you get these three options, opening GUI or Bash or PowerShell, and I just usually use PowerShell. So some of the things to set up first is to set up configure your user and email. So you just write git config and global flag. That means that you don't have to do it every time. It'll save it in the background every time you use git. This will be your name. And git config global email. User.email. Now that that's set up, we have opened the PowerShell here in this folder, as you can see, c.repo.source. So we can initiate a git init that initializes a local git repository. And here I've turned on show hidden files and folders. So you might not see this right away, but it actually creates a folder here called .git. And this is where it contains all of the information about the repository and how it also synchronizes online and so on. Now, we have a new file in our repository. And now let's try to write git status. And you'll see that Git has noticed that there's a new file. It'll write it in red, but it says it's not tracking this file because you didn't tell it to do so. And it's on branch master. It hasn't been committed yet. So we want to add this file to Git. So we write git add and just press dot if you just want to add all files. So now we write again git status, and you'll see that it's now turned the file into green and it's ready to be committed. So it's just saying that now I'm tracking this file and you can go ahead and commit it if you're ready. So let's try to commit it. Write git commit and m for message, and we'll just write my first commit. So now we set up a message for this file to be committed to GitHub. And now we need to set up our branch. So in GitHub, you won't see it right now, I don't think, but each repository has branches, and default branch is main. So we'll set the branch to main, so git branch main. This just sets our branch we're working with. Then we write git remote add origin. So this tells Git on your computer which repository are we working with. And we've set one up already here, and it'll give you a link, like a HTTPS link, and just copy that. And PowerShell, you can just right click into that, click enter. And now our remote origin has been set. So we're ready to push basically. So just write git push view origin main. So I've already done this, but when you do this the first time, it'll pop up with a login screen, and that's the credential manager that I talked about when we installed Git. And you just need to log in, and that'll set up everything for you basically. All right, so we can see that it's now pushed the file into main, and it's set up a new branch. So now if we go back and upload this one, we can see now here is our first file. Commit changes. Commit to the main branch. Now let's try to see. So as you can see, it hasn't actually pulled it. We still have our local file here, but we obviously want to synchronize. Now if we write git status, it won't tell you either here, but if you write git pull, it'll actually tell you that it has some changes on the remote, and it's merged those changes here. So now if we open this one, we'll say, we can see that the file has now been updated. So obviously the great thing about GitHub is that now you can actually look at other people's code and you can implement it into your own and so on. So let's look at an example here. We'll just look for motor controllers and we'll just take the first one here. So here you have someone else's repository and you can see the code because they've put it up open source. Obviously they have a license and so on. But if you want to get inspired by this or write your own code that's similar, you can clone it to your local repository. So the way to do that is, again, find your folder that you're working in and left shift and right click PowerShell. And let's say you want to work on this one, you just click code, HTTPS, copy this one, and you write git clone link. And now it's going to download this repository. And now you see locally you have a folder here. So you can also branch this one or fork it to your own repository, and then you can start working with it in your own space and do changes and so on. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and it'll help you with all of your future coding projects. Please consider subscribing to this channel so you don't miss out on all of our future full stack product videos. Thanks again for watching. I'm Raz. Have a good day.